Hey guys, so today Prime Video dropped their One Night in Idaho docuseries on the 1122 King Road homicides. If you guys missed my recap on what this docuseries was going to explore, just click this comment down here. Basically what I summarized in that video is what the gist of that docuseries was about. The first two episodes were really interesting. It was really nice to hear from the victims' family members as well as the victims' friends. I genuinely feel bad for these people. I've always felt bad for them because at a time where these people were dealing with a tragedy, were trying to grieve, were confused, were shocked, were in fear, social media was attacking them, was blaming them for them having something to allegedly do with these crimes. And it was all based on nothing but speculation and rumors driven by people online who just wanted views. So in addition to the summary that I made a couple of days ago before this docuseries dropped, I do want to discuss a few other important details that were discussed in this docuseries with you guys. So one of the first things that I think a lot of people should know is that it was said by one of the victim's friends that Dylan had actually called her friends over to come to the house before because she had heard things and she was scared. And I'm not talking about the night of the unalivings, I'm talking about prior. You know, Dylan had heard a pan drop and she got scared once and called her friends to come check out the house. You know, this is something that has happened before. So when Dylan asked a friend to come over and check out the house, they weren't thinking anything of it that day because Dylan was described to be someone who is easily scared. So on the night of the unalivings, when Dylan is describing what she saw and what she heard to Bethany, you know, it's not really being taken as seriously because Dylan has done this kind of stuff before and it's always panned out to be nothing. So you have Bethany who's like, okay, I didn't hear anything, let's just go to bed where you're comfortable and feel safe down here. And Dylan in return is saying, okay, you didn't hear anything, maybe I'm just imagining things, maybe I was dreaming it, maybe I thought I saw something but I really didn't. I also mentioned this briefly in the past, but we got further confirmation in this docuseries as to why the 911 dispatcher was told there was an unconscious person in the home. It was because Hunter Johnson had seen the scene in Xana's room and he didn't want the girls to see it as well. He didn't want the girls to be afraid. He didn't want the girls to be scared. So he was protecting them, and that is why he said, tell them it's an unconscious person. Not because there was some big cover-up thing or to delay law enforcement responding to the scene. Hunter Johnson was described by his friends to be like a ghost after finding Ethan and Xana deceased in Xana's bedroom. Hunter Johnson even said himself that he was clearly affected by what he had seen, that he was unable to sleep, he was paranoid, he was in fear for his safety and his friend's safety, constantly feeling like they were going to be attacked. And while he's dealing with all of this trauma, people on social media are attacking him. What sense does that make? The friends in this episode did confirm that none of the victims did DRUGS's, despite many rumors circulating online regarding this being some sort of DRUG house and a trade or a sale gone wrong. None of that was true. The docuseries also explored the fact that people on social media, content creators, were in Moscow dressing up like students, walking around the town, around the campus, pretending to be students to fish for information. Obviously, they showed J-Lie R, they showed Just Lives with Justine. I really like the fact that this docuseries pinpointed these specific creators who were throwing out horrible accusations, who were being extremely insensitive to the surviving roommates as well as those who have been impacted by these crimes. And then we got to hear a little bit more from Josh Ferrero, who was a former classmate of Brian Kohberger's at DeSales, as well as Brittany Slavin, who was also a former classmate of Brian Kohberger's. As I discussed in my previous video, Josh Ferrero did confirm that Brian Kohberger did study Elliot Rodger in one of their classes, and Brittany Slavin actually confirmed that Brian Kohberger showed a particular interest in learning about and researching Elliot Rodger. She said that unlike others in the class who despised Elliot Rodger and his actions, Kohberger didn't seem to be affected by his actions at all, further proving the possibility that Kohberger very well could have been an incel and was taking tips from Elliot Rodger. Brittany also confirmed that the questionnaires that Bryan Kohberger was putting on social media, it was out of the realm of what questions they were expected to and supposed to ask for their classes. Obviously, the questions that he was asking did pertain to his major and to his classes, but some of the questions he was asking for his own personal benefit, for his own personal knowledge. And then obviously the docuseries explored Papa Rodger on FB. We deep dove into Papa Rodger at the very beginning of this case. The docuseries did not confirm nor did they deny that the Papa Rodger account was Bryan Kohberger. I go back and forth on whether or not I think Papa Rodger is Bryan Kohberger. I feel like if Papa Rodger was Bryan Kohberger, that information will be confirmed after the gag order is lifted, because the Papa Rodger account was active until Bryan Kohberger was arrested, shortly after he was arrested. So if the account was deactivated / deleted after Kohberger was arrested, he couldn't have deleted the account because he was in custody. Law enforcement would have had to delete that account to preserve the information on there without public speculation and the public deep diving into that account. So if Papa Rodger was Bryan Kohberger, we will 100% know once that gag order is lifted. The gag order is expected to be lifted after sentencing on July 23rd. However, there is going to be a hearing held on July 17th, a few days prior, where the media has filed motions to get that gag order lifted immediately. So we could have the gag order lifted as soon as the 17th, but it should be lifted for sure by the end of the month. Overall, this was a really good docuseries. I definitely recommend watching it. It's available on Prime Video. And if you guys watched it, let me know what you're thinking in the comments.